This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
Welcome back. Craig Quaglia joining us. We are excited that he's back. He's a myofascial trigger point therapist, has his own company. He's been in business for such a long time. He really is so knowledgeable in this and all that he's doing to help you. And again, the owner of his own company. We're excited to have you back. And I know you're very well-renowned and most respected with your trigger point and clinical massage therapy. And this is, by the way, you've been serving the Chicago area for over like 32 years, I believe, right?
That's something that needs to be corrected. It's 38 now.
Ah,
You make me realize I got to update the website.
that's all right. All right. Wow. So yeah, clearly you have a lot of experience in this. For new timers, just tell us a little bit about the work you're doing.
Yes. So today I would like to take a little bit of a different tact. You know, we throw this word around called holistic. But
Yeah.
what does that mean?
Yeah.
So especially in pain management and especially where there's chronic pain and life-changing pain out of the blue. I think I mentioned last week that I had somebody who left here 2 weeks ago who literally got 2 blocks up the street, got broadside in a car accident, instantly changed his life. Was in the emergency room, had to have surgery, is partially paralyzed, just it's life-changing in this case. And he's going to be moved downtown to Chicago to another hospital where he's, happily to say, starting to progress and get his life back. But this required surgery, and that means there's going to be a long recovery plan. So in his case, there is going to be a holistic approach. It's already started. Started with getting to the hospital, started with getting the MRIs, the surgery, the different PTs, occupational therapists, all that. That is a great holistic approach. So the most effective pain management plan involves multidisciplinary approaches. And I have to say, with all honesty, this is rarely achieved. You're seeing it more often, but it's a hard thing to find, particularly with companies coming in and gobbling up the more successful clinics and then changing them back more to a traditional thing. So I've been in clinics where we've integrated medical. I've been also with psychological and physical therapies of different kinds where we brought in different things, different doctors, social workers. It's important to try to find that situation whenever you can. So you take somebody like the Health and Human Services, the Department of Veterans and the Department of Defense, where back in 2016, at the height of the opioid crisis, they came together because they had a big pool of people that were in crisis. And part of the crisis was the opioid crisis. They were withdrawing those drugs. What do you do with these people? So what they did is they spent, based on their database, they were able to collect and collate a lot of information to find out what would work other than opioids. Well, the problem with opioids or any drug that you have to take over a period of time, you begin to develop a tolerance to it. And what happens is, and instead of it being something that supports you, it's actually getting in the way and you have to take larger and larger amounts and it stops working at some point. So what the studies showed is that millions of people started gravitating toward us in order really to get a quality of life that they needed to get back, become more productive. So we're going to look a little bit at what this holistic approach is. So when we talk about a holistic approach, let's just use a car accident or a fall, all right? The smart thing to do when you're not sure how you're feeling, what's going on with you, go to the hospital, eliminate processes, fill out an accident report, make sure that you get, if and when it's necessary, you get x-rays and an MRI. What you want to do at this point is eliminate the possibility that it's going to be something that's terribly wrong, like it happened with the guy that was here 2 weeks ago. If we didn't have that situation where he was taken immediately to the hospital, who knows how much worse the paralyzation would have been, or, in this case, he didn't have a choice. A lot of times people wait too long, all right? So when we're talking about that, once you get through that, you get a lot of information, you start making choices, all right? So usually, generally speaking, people aren't in life-threatening situations after that, but they still need to be attended to because the secondary injuries are going to start. So it could be whiplash, could be low back pain, it could be numbness, tingling down the leg, any number of things that could happen here. At this point, once you get all that identified, the next part is you go to a doctor and they begin to prescribe medication. This is the first part. Now, I'm not anti-drugs, I'm not anti-medication, but what I've found over the 30 years is that people who are put on medications, and I'm one of them, have reactions to them. I have a bad reaction to pain meds. So whenever I have to use them, I make it to be the shortest possible time in order to get to a place where I can let the other therapies or modalities start to take over, okay? And that's really important. I've had people come in here who have been on, they're called NSAIDs and acetaminophen, so long and taking in such large amounts, they're actually doing damage to their body. It's no longer working, it's no longer happening. It could cause problems with the stomach, it can cause problems with the heart. It can actually, over time, some of this could go ahead and start attacking the joints. So whenever I run into somebody in situations like this, especially in a holistic approach where our doctors are involved, the goal is to get you off of those things as quickly as possible. We don't want you to have the next 5-10 years where you're on this kind of stuff and then you end up turning around one day and it's a whole different problem. So the second part usually is physical therapy. And that means, PTs get in there, they do strength and flexibility, they work on range of motion, maybe they work with an occupational therapist, but the goal is to get you back on your feet, break up the pain patterns, and let you start to take control of things, all right? So they also may use manual therapies like heat, cold, electro stim. These are all very useful tools, and they're all meant to be used short term. Then there's the other part that's really important, which is the psychological. Now, when does that come in? Psychological comes in when you've been in pain for a long period of time. And why would there be the necessity for that? Is because at that point, people are been in pain so long, sometimes people accuse them of, for instance, faking it, all right? So when you do not and function in a situation where you can get the help based on what you're saying and people are questioning you, that really puts you in a bad position from the point of view of it stops you from moving forward. You start to doubt what you're thinking, what the therapies are, are they working? Is it you? Kind of a thing. So what happens a lot of times is they bring in a social worker or we talked about in the past fibromyalgia. This is a great case because usually this has been going on for decades. So can you imagine you're in pain and somebody's telling you you're faking it or you're crazy or you're making it up, kind of a thing? That definitely gets in the way of you being able to move forward and to be able to get in a position where you start to get better. So they start bringing in counselors or they do cognitive behavior therapies. They work with breathing techniques, meditation, relaxation techniques, all these things to intervene in such a way that you can bring the level of pain down and move to the next level. Then there are other things called interventional procedures. Now, I was in a situation where I couldn't use the drug meds effectively because I was having a reaction to it, but the cortisone pack that they gave me was a miracle thing. It really brought my pain down to from 8, 9, 10 in some cases down to something like 6, 7. That meant that I could start to begin the process of intervening and taking care of my pain and starting to do the things that I needed to do. So this is great stuff, and it's meant to be done short term. Sometimes in low back pain, where it's progressed so far, you do epidermal injections, and that's another thing. But then finally, we get to complementary or alternative medicine, acupuncture, chiropractic, myofascial trigger point therapy, massage therapy, just all these different options that are out there that you can start to bring together, work, and move the patient forward in a rapid fashion. More importantly, you're empowering them to intervene on these reactions that's just suddenly become automatically. Now, this is the hardest part. These are the two hardest parts. The next part is lifestyle modifications, always the most difficult. We'll go back to fibromyalgia. A lot of times fibromyalgia people have leaky gut syndrome, which means the walls of the colon and the intestines have expanded in such a way that things are passing through those walls in a way that they shouldn't be, which causes inflammation. What kind of inflammation? Sensitivity to touch, joint pain, headaches, bad breath, disrupts the digestion, causes something called fibro fog. So we're not just talking one thing here, we're talking system upon system upon system. And one of the things we had to do was sit down and work with these people to change their diets in order to address this particular problem. And then when you can bring the inflammation down, you can go ahead and you can move forward on other things. One of the most important things is sleep. When people are in chronic pain, they cannot sleep properly. They do not get into the deep REM sleep where you can take your body begins to repair itself, take care of yourself. So generally speaking, it's recommended you get 6, 7, at least 7, 8 hours of sleep. What if you're in such pain all night that you have to get up? You can't find a comfortable position. Usually when that's happening, this is when people start to get on the internet and start looking for answers. And then I get a ping at 2 o'clock in the morning into the website that somebody is requesting more information. Now, when I see that, I'm really going to talk to that person as quickly as I can in the morning, but I know they're not doing it because they had a good night's sleep and they're in a bad place, possibly a very dark place. So the other thing is all this allows for encouraging active participation in our own care, in their own care. That's very empowering because up until then, a lot of people feel victimized. They feel victimized by the system. They feel victimized by having to spend time going to from one doctor to another doctor. They feel victimized of all the times that they're sitting in waiting rooms, not necessarily thinking or expecting to get an answer, get the help. And more importantly, they're going from all over the place rather than having it all in one place. Thus, we're talking about the holistic approach. So the bottom line is the most effective pain management plan often involves a multidisciplinary approach. We talked about the medical, we talked about the psychological, physical strategies. What gets lost in this conversation, and this is where we're coming in and we're really starting to have an impact. Health and Human Services, Department of Veterans, and the Department of Defense came back after all that research and found out the most effective, cost-effective, empowering, rapidly moving of a patient into a more healthy situation was all the hands-on techniques. The drugs over time helped short term, got in the way. The overuse of NSAIDs or aminophensine, now I got me doing it, was say Tylenol. All those things do damage long term. Short term, they can be very helpful. Long term, they're really bad. So the bottom line is we are moving not fast enough into this direction, and it's like 2 steps forward where you really find a place that can do this, and then something happens. The model changes, somebody buys them up, that's part of the problem. According to the CDC, 50 million Americans are in some kind of severe, life-changing, life-altering pain daily. That's 20% of your population. That kind of thing will break your healthcare system because of all the money that's going out and all the time that's lost in productivity, the relationships that are destroyed, just on and on and on. Different things add to the cost of this. So it literally starts to cost somewhere around, I think the number I saw was $560 billion a year. That's half of the defense budget. That's an amazing number. So the integrating in of all this together and using it in such a way that it allows people to get their life back faster. It brings the cost of healthcare down. It increases productivity, and it teaches people how to intervene in such a way, especially if the pain starts to come back or something happens, like another car accident. I've had patients who seem to have a sign on their bumpers, "Please hit me. I haven't been in a car accident in a while," kind of thing. And
Oh
it's
my
funny.
gosh.
I mean,
Joke of
I
it,
really,
but I know.
yeah. On one hand, it's humorous. On the other hand, it's like, oh my God, would you just stop for a while? We need to catch you up. So today, what I want to do is, once somebody starts to work with me, and when I can, I do work in the holistic model. I have a bunch of doctors at my fingertips that I can talk to, social workers, psychologists, different MDs with different skill sets. But the bottom line is, once they've worked with me, we'll go back to the car accident. If you've been in a car accident, you go through the emergency room, you get cleared as quickly as possible, because we know in the next 48 hours is when I can make the biggest impact with you. You can take over what's going on, and you're not going to go down into this spiral, down into this whole process of pain, spasm, pain cycles, changing your life, having it affected on every different level. The thing about this is, unfortunately, the number of doctors have declined, especially since COVID. It takes forever to get in to see somebody. So a lot of times I say, please call your doctor, get an okay to see me. If it's going to take 2 weeks to see your doctor, get an okay. Then they're in within the 48-hour windows. Otherwise, it could be 2 or 3 weeks. Boom, we're behind the 8 ball. Everything sets up. They begin to cascade down, and then starts that crazy journey where your life is out of control and on every level. So I want to share a couple of situations. I'm going to start with one that was in a car accident, a terrible car accident, years ago. Now, we'll call her Sally. This was a major life-changing thing. She was making a left-hand turn, had the green arrow, some dump truck, for whatever reason, ran the stop sign, took her out broadside, and instantly changed her life for the worse. Ended up in the hospital, ended up there for quite a bit of time, got on the roller coaster that we just talked about, where she went from doctor to doctor, drug to drug, and not having a resolution. Not a holistic model where she got the help or that she needed, partially because it's a car accident. They're trying to limit everything possible in terms of getting treated. And it's tough when you're doing that. When I had my first car accident in 1974, I went to the hospital, went to the chiropractor, and to my surprise, the lawyer came to see me, said, "Don't worry about anything. We're going to take care of everything." Did what I needed to do, got the help I needed, and it wasn't quite holistic, but we were able to do that. Lawyer came to my house a number of months later, signed a check, it's over. You are not going to get anything close to that today. Certainly, you're not going to have a lawyer. You're going to have multiple lawyers in this situation. So the point I'm making is, at a time you need all the support you get, you're fighting for it. You're working against a system that doesn't readily give it. So Sally, smart, funny, Irish dancer, tough, in the film industry. The first time I meet her, she's well into this process and well into breaking down that's going on physically and all over her life. Now, when I get people like this and I hear people say, are these people faking or are they making it up? These are the most courageous people you could ever meet in your life. It takes every day just to get out of bed, let alone to go to work, be productive. And I have a lot of these people. I have a lot of respect for them. And I really get ticked.
Yeah.
There's another word I would prefer to use when people question them. You can't fool me. You could fool me for a short period of time, but you can't fool me over a long period of time. And I've had people and patients try to do that. These people are the most courageous people you're ever going to meet because they try to get up every day and be present and do what they need to do. The first time I met Sally, she literally crawled up 44 stairs to get to my office. Think about that. Crawling up 44 stairs because you can't stand up straight and you can't walk up the stairs. With dignity, she cracked jokes going up the stairs the entire way. I knew right then and there that I was going to do everything I could possibly do to help her, okay? So she had such multiple injuries, but the one that particularly was the worst was the one in her left hip. And she ended up calling it the bitch. The bitch is, she would call up, I need to see an appointment. The bitch is acting up today. And I would say to her, Sally, please quit calling your body, this area of your body, the bitch. This was a persistent pain that would ebb and flow. And I've seen a lot of these. So in the film industry, her job was to create costumes changes for the different actors. But this also meant she might work 18 hours a day. Now, here you are, you've been in a car accident, you need money, you have no money coming in, the insurance company and the lawyers and all that, that's years down the road. You have some tough decisions to make. She works. If she worked an 18-hour day, she would pay for it. By the time she got home, she would be in so much pain that she would try whatever strategy she could. But the most important strategy that couldn't be changed was, could she sleep and get enough rest, at least enough to get through a day, all right? That's important. The healing process takes place while you're sleeping. You don't sleep, you don't get in that REM sleep, there's no healing. Yeah. And you end up waking up in worse shape, and it starts to feed on itself. The pain starts to spread. It starts to recruit other muscles. So it's no longer just the hip, the bitch. It's starting to spread through her whole body. So one of the biggest challenges we had is, how do we get a consistent sleeping schedule when she's trying to make a living and has to make a living, otherwise she's out on the street. So her whole life, when she's not doing a film at that time, is centered around dealing with this exhausting pain and finding ways to manage it and to reduce it. Yes, drugs are involved. Yes, there are other therapists involved. But the key part is, how do we get to that point? So we start working on schedules to see her. Now, when she would come to see me, when her pain hit 10 to 10, there's two things I knew that were going to happen for sure. She wasn't going to be on time. So I had to really let go of that and wait for her to show up when she showed up, and really open up a lot of time around her, because that's just the way it was. Thank God I don't have, if I had 10 of her in my practice, I'd probably be bankrupt. But at that time I had her. And so I had to learn to be patient. I had to learn to meet her where she's at. I had to learn to respect and admire her tenacity to go through this day after day trying to find answers, all right? So at one point she was on so many meds, we lost count, And here's the other problem. When you're dealing with multiple doctors, they don't talk to each other. Dr. A prescribes a drug, she may have a response to that. Dr. B will prescribe a drug to respond to drug A, and all of a sudden you're in this loop where, as therapists, we don't know if it's the drug that's the problem or the actual incident. So over the years, she cascaded down and she lost everything. She lost her job, She lost her ability, she lost her car, she lost her ability to have the life that she wanted. She stopped dancing, she became
Ah,
isolated, cognitive issues. We talked about the psychological impacts, the isolation,
mm-hmm.
people questioning whether she was really sick. So when we talk about the kind of pain that we start to work with and we start to get in there, and I've said this over and over again, I got to listen to the story. I got to meet you where you're at
Mm-hmm.
and work with her. So we have the cognitive slowdown. She started having memory problems. None of this is a big surprise. You don't sleep. It's no longer physical. It
Yeah.
affects and impacts every system of your body.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, we get to 2016. The opioid crisis explodes, and they pull all her meds back. And all of a sudden, she has no backup plan, no help from the doctors because they're pulling the opioid. They didn't do anything to replace. There was no plan in place what to do about that later.
Mm-mm.
And from that point on, we weren't able to do anything. That situation that we're talking about in 2016 busted my clinic that we worked at because
Wow.
we were in no way prepared for what had happened. And we had great therapists, we had great doctors, but we were not prepared for that at all. And then the
Yeah,
insurance
no.
companies pulled back. So to this day, she's still out there trying to get her life back together. It haunts me. She never got the support she needed. She never got the quality of life she deserved. And, I once in a while run into her and make suggestions about some new things that go on, but she's lost faith in the whole thing. So she's just surviving. Now, that's a depressing situation there for
Mm-hmm.
us. Okay. So let's talk about an Olympic skater in 2007, pairs skater from Oak Park. Okay. All right. So
Just letting
here
you
he
know,
is.
we only have 2 minutes left, Craig. So go ahead.
Okay. All right. Then we'll stop. We'll do
No,
this another time.
are you sure?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that would be in 2 minutes. I wouldn't want to do that. All right. So the bottom line is you see why the holistic approach is important. The more
Mm-hmm.
people we can pull in with the right skills will save the system money, will save the patient money, will save everybody money, but more importantly, it will get the patients back on their feet. So the bottom line is when somebody comes in, for me, they've already gone through that system and it's failed them in some way or fashion. But on the upside, at this point in my career, I have the people around me that I can reach out to and help this person
Yeah.
and move them to the next level. So when we talk about myofascial trigger point therapy, great. I can do it standalone a lot of times. It's especially when we get to them immediately, but there are other times when it's just another piece of a puzzle of a holistic approach, and that is a great thing to have at your fingertips and be able to help people. So on that note, my dear, we'll end this
Perfect.
conversation.
Thank
Okay?
you. Thank you. Thank you. And how can we reach out to you?
Okay, great Quaglia. My Craig Quaglia, Trigger Point Experts at, .com. Craig Quaglia, TriggerPointExpert.com.
Perfect.
708-524-8812.
Great. Thank you so much, Craig. I'll see you
Okay.
then next week, I guess. I want to hear about that story about the skater, okay?
Yeah,
Remind me, we'll
that's a good
start with
place to
that if
start.
we can. All right. Thanks
And
again. Bye-bye.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.